Good morning. I want to share something that has taken me my entire life to figure out. And certainly within this last, 36, 37 years. And I want to save you the trouble from having to learn it over and over again, or maybe put some words to it if you're struggling with those right now. And I'm still working through this. But it's simply just this idea of we have to trust the gear. And what I mean by that is that we've all had experiences. We've all had good things happen, bad things happen, things that we've learned from, things that we've tried to get out of, but we realize there's actually a lesson to get out from it. We've all had those moments. And it comes down to trusting the gear. And that just simply means taking all that we have learned and realizing that what we are going through right now, we can get through it. We can do it. We can move through one step at a time. It may feel like the world is crushing us. It may feel like things are falling in around us at times. We may be confused. We may not be knowing how to sail our ship off into the dark and what step comes next. But that's a step of faith. And this idea of trusting the gear, it comes from a time when I used to do some free climbing with a friend of mine. His name is Sean, and this is back in British Columbia. And Sean is a athlete's athlete, and I am not. And there was this one day where we went climbing at this place called Lighthouse Park, and it's a beautiful, beautiful cliffside along the Pacific Ocean. Worst thing that can happen to you is you're going to fall, 40 feet and fall into the water, in nice deep water, and get a fresh swim out of it. But this was my first time. And the only way to get to the start of this climb was to rappel down, which means you have a fixed rope position and you rappel down to this foot of the ocean, essentially, on this little ledge, and then you climb up back to the ledge with which you came from, which means you have to hold on to the rope and kind of hurl yourself over the edge at first before you rappel down, which is controlling your descent so that you're not falling. And, everybody that was with us, they all went down just fine. And I'm just kind of half crouched, looking at the water, looking at the people, about 40 feet down on the ledge. And I'm just thinking, man, this is real. I don't know if I could just jump off this cliff. And Sean looks up to me and he just says, "You got to trust the gear, man." And he was right. And it was that knowing that this gear would hold me, that I would be okay. And you hurl yourself over the edge, you have that moment of terror, and then you realize you're all right. You rappel down, you get up, you do the climb, and it's a nice sunny day. And I think that's what happens, is that we get so frozen in our moment. Anxiety takes over. And the definition of anxiety is just simply being pulled apart in two different directions, being ripped apart in two different directions, in two different ways. And therefore standing still, and inside our soul where the friction's happening and we're being ripped apart as opposed to staying whole. And so this idea of trusting the gear is something that's taken me so long to learn, because it means to have faith. When you're making decisions in life and when we're embarking on something new, and if you're like me, that's been probably a little too often, but when you're embarking on something new and it's something afresh, then you're suddenly facing opposition. And it can be opposition from people. I mean, haters are going to hate. We're going to share ideas and people are going to hate them. That's kind of normal. But the opposition can sometimes be from within us. It can be from the world. It can be from the devil, however you want to look at it. But the bottom line is that our fear comes from a place where we're not trusting the gear. We're not trusting in the moment of all of the moments that have happened before us, of all things that have come before us that have gone well. But we freak out at current situations and information that we have at the moment, forgetting all of the wonderful things, the answered prayers, the good things that have happened. If we focus on those things, we make a list of the good things that have happened, then when we compare it to the present moment, we know we do hold our breath, hurl ourselves off the cliff, and trust the gear. There's an example actually in the Bible that I think about quite often when it comes to this. It's from Mark chapter 4, verse 35, and I'll read a little bit here. "And on that day, when evening had come, he said to them, 'Let us go across to the other side.' And leaving the crowd, they took him with them in the boat, just as he was, and other boats were with him. And a great windstorm arose, and the waves were breaking into the boat, so that the boat was already filling. But he was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke him, and they said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" And he woke up and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace." See, what happened there is Jesus told his guys, "We're going to go to the other side." That should have been enough. I mean, this is not fresh in them following him around. They've seen miracles happen. They've known his character. They understand that he is the Lord of Lords. He is the Son of Man. He is the Son of God. He is God made flesh. And yet they were freaking out over the storm. And Jesus is not worried about it at all. He's not worried about the situations we go through. It's not that he doesn't care. He isn't worried. And that's a big difference between the two. And if Jesus isn't worried, then I tell you right now, I want to cling to him like a rope holding a carabiner that's into a piton in the rock that I'm hurling myself over. I want to hold on to him. I want to hold on to that assurance. And that is trusting the gear, is also trusting him. It's a leap of faith. It is. But it's not a leap of blind faith, of closing your eyes and hoping for the best. It's a leap of faith knowing that the gear is solid, it's going to stick, and you're going to be okay. And what these guys had forgotten is when he said, "Let us go to the other side," that "let us go to the other side" was also a promise that they were going to be all right. And even though the storm rose up, and even though the waves were crashing around, and even though they were freaking out and they came over and, they were like, "What do you care about us?" Of course he cared. He cared enough to give them the promise and the assurance that they're going to make it and they're going to be okay. So what I've learned that I hope you can avoid having to learn is just simply that you got to trust the gear. And even when things seem shaky, even when it feels like the world is falling apart, even when, the bills pile up, and even when everything seems to be choking you out, remember the answered prayer, remember the good things that have come before you, remember the people that have come around you and held you up, and reach out to them. Reach out to them for prayer, for support, for encouragement. And remember that this day is one day, and tomorrow is a whole brand new day to live, to walk, to thrive. And so even though you're feeling the valley of the shadow of death right now, and even though it feels like the night is all around you, you are going to be okay. Just simply trust the gear.